Hi, gang. We have finished up the first turn is a half turn. It starts with the Germans. The Allies don't get to do anything on the first turn. And the first turn is the 10th of May. So this was 2 days off and on of me messing around with this. And of course, I'm still trying to adapt and picking up rules as I go until certain things just sort of become fluid in the old brain. Obviously, supply, which I did kind of mismanage or didn't execute appropriately. Probably shouldn't have any problems. All right, so with this system, you kind of need, when you're looking at what you're getting ready to do, because you get movement. By the way, this is the Blitzkrieg legend, OCS MMP. So you get movement, which you can do overruns. All right, and then you get combat, and then you will get exploit movement. Okay, so during the regular movement, if you conduct an overrun and your result is an attacker gets an exploit level, you do not apply the exploit level for overrun combat during the movement segment. Then you get and during that movement segment, you can do fighter sweep missions. You can do hip shoots. There's other air missions you can do, so you got to sort of think that out if you have aircraft. And then you'll get right before combat, you'll get barrage. All right, let's look at this here. Hold on. So you will get, let's see here. You'll get, where's it? All right, so you'll get movement. All right, then you'll get air and naval barrage. Now during movement, you can do, where's it at? Oh, come on. Overruns, no exploitation can be earned. Air units can conduct missions, including, if allowed, hip shoots. You got to expend fuel. You can build air bases, railroads, hedgehogs, repair ports, send out breakdown regiments, which I didn't do. Didn't see that as necessary right now. I'm sure I will later. You can blow dumps. And supply points only move once per phase. Order of actions is up to the player, but each unit stack must finish before another starts. Okay, so you get movement. Then you got air and naval barrage, which I don't have any naval for the Germans, but plenty of air barrage. Then you go to a supply phase where you replenish the supplies on any units with low or exhausted ammunition. Then the opponent gets to react. You do your trace supply too after that. All right, which that wasn't a problem for this first turn. Then your opponent can reaction move for any of his reserves. And he can do air too. And he can barrage with his units with naval or air. Okay. Or freshly released ground units. So if he releases artillery units, they can bombard if they're in reserve. And then you go to your combat phase, which you do your artillery barrages. Then you do combat. Then you get exploit movement. And then you get a barrage for any units you may have had in exploit or in reserve. You can take them out of reserve and then they can fire. All right. And then you do a combat again for the units that exploited. And then blah, blah, blah. You move on down. You do your cleanup phase where you remove your fueled up markers. You remove exploit markers. So when you get an exploit during a regular combat, put the exploit marker that it calls for on the unit. Then when the exploit phase is, you'll know who you can move. Not like SCS, where you have exploit-capable units. Units that can exploit in this game earn them during combat, regular combat. So then you'll move them, then you'll attack with them, and then the cleanup phase, like I say, you'll remove those exploit markers. You'll remove your fueled up markers. You'll flip your your multi-step units, like the Panzer divisions. They have like a marker unit on top that on its reverse side, it has a big fuel pump thing that says they're fueled up, because that usually lasts all turn. Okay. So we went through all of those steps, and we've come to the end of the first day, the first turn, which I think these are 2-day turns. Yeah, 2-day turns. So we finished up the 10th May, and we're going 12th May, and then it'll be an initiative die roll. So, the idea is the Germans could potentially get two phases back to back. Okay. So let's see if we can't take a look at what we've done here. This might be hard. There's a lot of counters to get this on the board. Get this down where we can see something. But we'll try. Make sure my legs are extended all the way. Had the camera flip over a few minutes ago. All right, so up here in this area, tilt her down. All right, so we're playing the full campaign that includes Holland and everything. Yeah, it's not going to work. So up here, we had an SS unit. Sorry about that light. You just have to tolerate it in that corner. So they're pushing across through the what do they call this stuff here? Polder. All right. So they pushed across. It actually captured some supplies. Haven't touched that DG unit there. Matter of fact, that DG unit smacked that SS unit in the face, told them to go away. This one up here, they won and crossed the canal there and pushed forward. All right. And eliminated. You see, here's the eliminated Allied units right there. And I think there were 3 or 4 breakdown units. They go back in the breakdown box over there, so they can be reused. Germans lost a few too. So we've already taken Arnhem Bridge without the 6th Airborne, without Monty, without 30 Corps. Oh wait, these are the Germans. My bad. All right, so we're driving. The objective up here is to. Oh yeah, we landed our 7th Foster, and I got lucky. They completely landed all but 1 unit safely, but they can't move anything on that first after they drop. So the objective is to get somebody adjacent. I think it's a Panzer unit. Panzer or a mech unit. I have to check the rules on it because it'll be a while before we get there. Either adjacent to Amsterdam, Rotterdam, or this Den Hagen thing up here. And then you start taking the chance that they'll surrender. But there's also, I think and then for Belgium, once those 6 ports back there are isolated, and like I said, I'm just very vague on the rules because I don't have to worry about that just yet. I think once those are isolated or captured, Belgium starts rolling for surrender, okay? All right. Where's our biggest surges? All right, so here in the Roermond area, all right, they blew through the end of Holland here. And big open gap right there. So, I mean, shit, they're already halfway to Antwerp, okay? Not that they're not going to run into any of this stuff here. Another interesting thing about this game is you have these commandos, which I've already used. Here they were right here. And they can, on the first turn, drop on forts or bridges, and they can take them pretty easily. Well, by a die roll, you get some options when you roll the die. They sit there until a German unit approaches and gets adjacent, and then you roll the dice to see what the commandos did. So the fort that was right there underneath that out of supply marker thing, that's because they don't have any markers for it. They got a fort destroyed during the exploitation phase. So as long as you didn't touch it, I mean, you could attack it if you wanted to and everything else, but you didn't. It was still going to be present until the exploitation phase. So. Which didn't really matter. There was an infantry unit, a breakdown unit on top of it, and right beside it there was a 3-step infantry division. You see, they're gone. I've eliminated them. But we still are not. We got across the river, but then we suffered an AO1, and I wasn't going to take a step loss, and the defender, he lost a step. So remember in this game here, in the OCS series, the attacker executes his results first, and then the defender. Because if the defender gets an AO, an optional thing, if the attacker retreats, the defender doesn't have to execute those results. He can just stay where he was, so he wouldn't have to retreat or take a step loss if he was holding on. All right, so there's going to be, that looks like the first push. All right, like I said, we are pretty much considered to be across that river because we did take that. That bicycle unit's not going to stop anybody. Matter of fact, he'll probably run away on this turn. Come down the river towards Liège. We haven't hit that yet. We wanted to, but I couldn't quite get the 5th Panzer there. Of course, all the Panzer units are blowing up here through the Ardennes. followed closely by their great big, massively large infantry units, which the French also have them too, but they're just back farther on the Meuse River and on the Maginot Line. All right, so you can see 5th Panzer is up, 7th Panzer, Kleist, who was in charge of a big, massive group of these panzers. All right, and there's 2nd Panzer, and there's 1st Panzer. There's 20th Mech, 10th Panzer. Down yonder here is the 6th Panzer. And y'all can figure out which one was Rommel and who was Guderian and all that other happy horse shit. So, now I've played games that are bigger than this, but this one has a lot of stuff to it. This one's this is more detailed than most. Is it scaring me away? Hell no. I love that. It's going to be slower to play, but it really makes the head work, makes the brain work. So I'm assuming that this game started with, I don't know if you say a Ben Emil was already taken, unless that was what I was doing right there at Maastricht. Because that was a pretty good size. It was a 6-strength fort sitting right there, so maybe that was what it is. But I have to say that the initial movement, show you how weird this game is. That little 4-3 unit right there, that little bicycle unit, and they weren't 10 speeds, they were just regular bicycles. He threw Kleist and the 7th Panzer back by himself. Because you don't get that surprise roll, and then you get some stupid combat results. Or some off-the-wall combat results. Hey, luck. Maybe they had minefields in the right spot. Maybe they just fought with some extra vigor and aggressiveness or defended, and they won the fight at that crossroads right there, which, yes, now is going to delay stuff because now they're going to have to get hit again, which will slow those units down. All right, detailed game, and I'm still adapting. There's a lot of things that are just basic. You have to decide at the start of a unit's movement, first off, if it's truck, mechanized, or armor, like tanks, you got to fuel them. That costs supply points. Then you got to decide, are they going to be in move mode, where they can travel a lot farther? They're weaker, but they can move a lot farther, get a lot more movement points. It's like double their movement points. And which means they can, you can conduct as many overruns as you have movement points to do so. So, but the fact that they're weaker makes that a little tougher to do. Plus, when you get a full-size attack going, you figure one of these German infantry divisions that are 4 steps, that's an entire supply point wasted for them to attack. Take one of these panzer units, and it's pretty much, they fuel 1 supply point, and then when they attack, it's usually around 1 supply point, so there's 2 you're burning up there. Air doesn't cost anything, but for the air power to be refit, as you see, if you notice, I've only got 1 air unit sitting active because I used the hell out of all the rest of them, or I transferred some a little bit forward because I took an air base. So now supply points will have to be paid for the massive amount of air that the Germans have to use. Okay, in this game here, only the Stukas, the Ju-87Bs, they're the only aircraft in the game that can do hip shoots. I haven't seen yet the value in them because it's extremely rare they're going to hit. But I'm sure I will try some here during the movement eventually. I did forget to use my 1 surge marker for the Luftwaffe during the movement and use these I did the drops, which you can see up there. I got to remember now those guys, they get refitted. It's no cost. Anything up here does. But I forgot to use these units. So that was a waste. A waste of air power I could have used. Those air units in those boxes up there doesn't cost anything to refit those. Same with the Brits will have Spitfires eventually in their England box. I did bomb a port. Did bomb Amsterdam, try to cut down on some of the supply coming in up there, and I hit it. It took 1 hit, and you can see as they take hits, their incoming supply or their port cap gets reduced. So we'll start doing that, start reducing that, and that can be fixed. I need to read the rules on that, whether it's they pay equipment points or something. I got to look at that, but those things can be repaired, or whether it's engineers that do it. All right, so anyhow, here's the initial spread. You can see the, this flank down here. These infantry units will probably break down and they'll just start shielding the Maginot Line as the panzer divisions and the mobile stuff start moving through the Ardennes. I understand what the Germans did in 1940. This game is not. There's computer games that I've played where the computer is, if you set if it's in a historical mode, the Brits and the French will start moving towards the dial line, to counter the Schlieffen plan that happened in World War One. They figure that's the same approach because nobody's going to come through the Schnee Eifel, through the Ardennes, and they're not going to attack the Maginot Line. But I don't remember seeing any rules that says, okay, all these French and British units have to move towards the dial line, towards Antwerp and up that way. I didn't see a rule that says that. That'd be kind of tough to have a two-player game where you can see everything on the board to tell somebody you got to move up there. So I don't know how that's going to represent. I do know that a good number of the units here along the Meuse are breakdowns. Even the 18s and the 14s, they're not going to match the strength of one of these armored divisions when they're flipped over to their combat side. Right now, they're in their movement side, so they're about half the strength they normally. The infantry divisions in there are 7s, 6s, and 8s, and then you get a couple of these infantry divisions up here, these four-steppers, and they're like 20s and 18s. So we'll see what happens when we hit the Meuse. Can't do any. Got to read this because I want to say this was such a mobile fight that hedgehogs can't be built until a certain stage, and then they can only build level 1s. So there's really, you've got the Maginot Line, and then you got some fortresses or hard-placed hedgehogs, some more forts right through there with hedgehogs that are scattered on the map, and then there's just a few that are built where you can tell were troop constructed in some places. The Dutch? Yeah. They're not very powerful. Their biggest unit is a 10-strength infantry unit. Of course, they don't have as much as they need to defend. But I can't see having to use any more German forces than what's already up there. Could be wrong, but we'll see. I got 20th motorized sitting right there. Where are they at? Right there. If I need to use... No, that's Panzer. Camera's sitting off to the side. Right there. So 20th motorized is sitting right there. And there's reinforcements to come. All right, so this is the Blitzkrieg Legend. We're just getting underway. I know T. Faust is playing it. I hope he sends me some screenshots of how his is going because he's playing it without Holland. He's playing it without the North map. Could be a table space thingy. I got lucky with this one. And I got my Stalingrad's Pocket 2 over there going on, which I'll play a little bit more of that here soon. That moves a lot faster, even with the number of counters it has. All right, let's get this thing posted. The Blitzkrieg Legend, MMP. No idea what freaking year it was. All right, anyhow, get this posted so y'all can see what's going on. You know what to do. Hit that like button if you enjoy this stuff. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that notify button if you want to keep up to date. All right, talk to you soon.